This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, we are recording the go-to meeting for month 7. It's week 1 and it's Monday evening. In attendance are myself and Ashley. Welcome back. Good to see you, Ashley, and welcome back to Jonathan and Terrell as well. Terrell or Terrell, do you know?
I think it's Terrell.
Terrell? Okay. Um, so the first thing that I need to mention about month 7, we are, as you guys know, and you've experienced some of this, we're trying to really increase participation because it is remarkably crucial for everybody. So there are just 3 of you in this class. So it would be great if we could get a regular time that the 3 of us, or the 3 of you and me, so the 4 of us can meet to have a bit more of a regular discussion, and so that it's live and we don't have to worry about what people are getting and not getting, or understanding, not understanding, and you can ask your questions in real time and that sort of thing. So we can kind of work through the assignments a little bit more together, as opposed to it, either just being talking about Ashley's work and then you having to interpret your things and that sort of deal. So if everybody can get a general time together, that it's another day or another time that we can meet, I will see what I can do about that. The beginning of the week is more ideal than the end of the week. If we have to have 2 go-to meetings, depending on the assignment or something, that might work out. So if you're available on Thursdays as well, let me know that, or Fridays even. But it tends to be that Fridays and the weekends, people are never really available. It just tends to work out that way a lot of the time. It's always hard to work around time zones and then people's work schedules. Some people work, some people don't. Some people work nights, some people work days. You guys get it. But with the three of you, it should be easier to find a way for us all to participate together. So let me know about those times. I do have 2 other classes. I don't have to teach go-tos or have go-tos on the same days, but it sort of ends up working out that Monday between 5 and 8 is sort of the easier time for my schedule, based on the idea of doing things at the beginning of the week when most people are available. So there's that. Did you have an opportunity to read through any of the information? Do you have any questions to start off with about the course, Ashley, or about the concepts?
I have not had the chance as of yet to really go through and read them in depth. I
Uh-huh.
do apologize for the background
That's
noise.
that's
Um,
fine.
but yeah, I haven't had the chance to read, or I think I watched a couple of moments of one of the videos,
Mhm.
but nothing that I have questions about as of right now.
Okay. Um, well, let's just look at the structure real quick. I want you guys to be on top of what's going on. The class has been restructured a bit with the concept in mind of having you be able to spend more time with concepts, to still have hands-on time along with the concepts, and then have a bit more of a reflection and learning and cogitation time at the end. You will notice that there are 3 weeks in which you are working on developing a strategy, and then the last week is completely the mastery journal. The mastery journal is probably a little bit more in depth. You've already gotten some of the more in-depth work with the mastery journal. Let's go ahead and look at it real quick, even though it's not open yet, just so that you guys know what's coming down. So you've worked with this particular structure with the numbered prompts, correct, or have you not?
Right, and in month 5, we were introduced to the number prompts, and then it we did it again in the previous month, month
Okay,
6.
you did do it in month 6. Okay. Um, so this might be a little bit different for you down here because this wasn't in month 5. But in addition to that sort of reporting, You'll need to write a paper. However, it is a short paper. It's a minimum of 500 words. I'm not sure how anybody worth their salt can do it in less than 1,000, to be perfectly honest, but it's a minimum of 500 words. You do need to use the APA style guidelines, so it's an APA formatted paper with the title page, with pagination, with running head, indented citations, the whole bit, references. So you're going to do an overview of your work, and you're going to take this entire week to reflect back on the work you did and think about the key points for you. Everybody's at different levels. Everybody's at different need for what they're getting out of the program and this sort of thing. So you are reflecting back on the work, and you're reflecting back on the process and the particular learning moments that you individually had. However, as always, remember, and I think you guys have been working on this for a couple of months, that this goes beyond personal reflection. So this is not about whether you enjoyed it. It's not about whether it was hard for you this particular month or whatever. It's about the work, and it's about the key learning moments that you've had throughout. There will definitely be some overlap, I would think, between the 4-degree learning outcome writing and the writing that you do here. It's just another opportunity for you to write with a different focus so that you are able to get all that information, repeat that information to yourself, and it becomes better ingrained. The concepts that you talk about during the 4 go-to meetings needs to be presented down here. So you're taking notes as you read, you're doing the quiz on the concepts. Concepts are being presented to you in quizzes. We're going over these things in go-to meetings, and then you're going to need to reflect on them more specifically with the work once you've done some work over the month. That should give you a lot of time to get really conversational with these different concept names and different ideas. Make sense?
It does.
Excellent. All right, so a little heads up on that. You did the live session posts in month 5 and in month 6?
Correct.
Excellent. Okay, so you guys are, well prepared for that. You guys are probably the first class who have done it consistently and will carry it through up until your thesis. So y'all are probably going to have some of the better theses. Okay. Another thing to point out, you'll notice that we have parts 1 and 2, parts 3 and 4, and then parts 5 and 6. You should be familiar with the Felton text, advertising concept and copy. It is the textbook that you're using this month. Often we'll get a student, or students who say, I don't see that in Safari or something of that nature. You had this book in month 4. I think it was your primary text in month 4. You should have been given a code to access this book in month 4. So you should have I think it's Vital Source is the name of the code.
Right.
So look through old emails for that if you have trouble finding it, or contact FSO support on how to get that particular code if you're unable to find it. So there are some articles that are not the text, and then we are using advertising concept and copy. There is the one video. It's a big video, but good information comes out of it. Further, let's talk about the project just a little bit. Box Park as an entity is real, and the first one existed in Shoreditch, England. Okay. East Side Milwaukee is a for-real neighborhood. It's a district, if you will. You guys just came off of doing some district stuff. So it's a district neighborhood in Milwaukee. So you know that it's going to have its own specific branding, its own specific messaging, its own specific target audience. So you know how all that works. But you're going to need to learn what that is. So you do some research on East Side Milwaukee, and you're going to do some research on Box Park Shoreditch and the whole concept of container shopping or alternative shopping structures. The sushi restaurant going into Box Park Sushi, well, maybe I should back up. East Side is real, Box Park is real, however, it is not really going into the east side of Milwaukee. Sushi is a real thing, sushi restaurants are real, but Box Park Sushi is a fictitious restaurant that will be in Box Park Shoreditch fictionally in the real neighborhood of East Side Milwaukee. So I just want everybody to understand what parts of this are real and what parts of it are kind of made up for the purpose of your assignment. Any question on that, Ashley?
No, I think I got it. Eastside Milwaukee is real. Fox Park is real, although it does not necessarily exist in Milwaukee. And
Right.
then the sushi restaurant is fictitious, but we're imagining that it's a location within Box Park, which is in East Milwaukee.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Good job. And I know that can get kind of confusing. Things start off real hot and heavy if you haven't looked at that yet. You've got 3 things you need to keep in mind and research. It's not just the district, it's not just a restaurant, and it's not just the particular structure of this mall that this place is going to be in. You kind of have to keep all of these different aspects in mind while you're going through all of the research. Each week, for each of these chapters, you're going to have 2 chapters in Felton from the beginning that are going to be used to develop a strategy. Well, there's the quiz. If you haven't been doing it yet, you should be able to figure out you can access the knowledge check and keep it open while you're doing your reading. So you really should be able to use the knowledge check as an indication of some of the concepts that we find particularly important. If we're quizzing you on them, they are important. And so they are kind of a top level thing to pay attention to. If you are somebody who already understands all those concepts, great. If you're not, then, you know, if you have to go outside of the reading to better understand them, then do that kind of research. Learn the concepts you need to learn. Let's look at this assignment. Okay, so the client's product is one chapter, and there's a particular deliverable. And then the competition is a second chapter. Now, what I will say about each of these 6 chapters is that, well, it's actually sort of 5. Each one of them presents a different part of research, a different bit of information you will need to develop your strategy. This is where you have to employ a certain amount of creative thinking and understand yourself as a designer. Okay? You do need to understand the client's product. You do need to understand the competition. You don't necessarily need to do it in this particular order. You might understand the competition before you understand the actual product that the client is doing. It might help you understand the client product to understand the competition a little bit better. And equally, the market segments, market segmentation, the information you'll be doing in the next couple of weeks, they don't necessarily build in this way, in this chronological order. So don't think that because you're doing the client product first, that it always has to be done that way. These are discrete ideas that you need for developing your strategy. And for some of you, your strategy will come 100% out of what you learned about the competition. And you're going to have to understand your client product, but it might be the client product information might not have as much to do with developing the strategy as it does with executing the strategy. You might develop your strategy 80% out of the market segmentation, realizing that that's your linchpin, that's your sweet spot, that's the thing you need to pay attention to. So when we get down to developing the strategy from all of the bits of information you've come up with, two things to remember about that. The first is not every one of these is going to hold equal weight in the development of your strategy, but they should all essentially align, meaning that if something you learn out of the client's product is that it's a make your own sushi place. They provide all of the fish and whatnot, but you end up rolling your own rolls or making your own sushi or something like that. So there's kind of a hands-on experience with the client product. That's a pretty strong differentiating factor. You learn through the competition that nobody else in the area offers this particular type of sushi experience of make your own. Therefore, by the time you get down to learning about the other parts of developing a strategy, when you get down to developing your strategy, something about the client product lines up with something about the competition, which lines up with the market segmentation. So all of these things need to work together. We see an interesting phenomenon with students that instead of making sure that they see a connection that is similar between each of the elements of their strategy, they instead come up with a different aspect for each one of these areas that is different. And in the end, you're working against yourself. If you say your target audience is interested in learning or having a hands-on experience with their food or something unique, but then why does it sound like my phone is ringing? Okay, sorry. But you don't take advantage of the client product actually being a hands-on sushi experience, then it's not showing that you understand what your goal is. And your goal is, with all of this information, to find the crossover points between each of these different bits of information to see how client's product, market segmentation, the needs that are met, and the competition or differentiation, to make sure that there's something that overlaps in all of those pieces, because that's going to be your optimum strategy, your optimum direction to go. You've had experience with this in month 4 to some extent, at least in terms of reading about some of these things. And you've had experience in doing the research in month 5. However, we didn't focus as much on developing the strategy as we did on just doing the research. So in that you've already had some experience with the research, now it's time to focus on the strategy in a little bit more intensive way. You were working on your district before, so it was really kind of just the one thing to pay attention to. Now you're having to pay attention to 3 different aspects that might influence your strategy a little bit more. And so you need to be thinking about sort of all of these things at one time, which I understand is quite a lot, but you're master students and this is the beginning of your thesis. So it's time to try thinking about all those things. And are you going to be great at it right out of the gate? Probably not. But by the time you get to the end of this month and have been considering all of these things, you'll be better at it. And by the time you get halfway through next month, it'll start to make more sense as you start applying your visuals to it. So there's a lot of similarity between months 5 and 6 and then months 7 and 8, but there's a little bit more in-depth master's level work going on. Make sense?
It does.
Okay. So with regard to what I said before about this getting kind of hot and heavy, every week there's going to be 2 concepts that you have to work on. Your deliverables are going to feel very involved. There's a lot of writing essentially involved in these things. It says right off the bat to communicate, I think it says in here, everything. Okay. All right. Without asking you for 100% specifics. It says, if possible, in terms of the product, use it, wear it, eat it, drive it, drink it, bathe in it, whatever. That's right out of the Felton text. So without giving you a list of things that you have to learn about the product, you need to go learn about the product and figure out for yourself, what do I need to know about this product? What do I need to understand? What parts do I connect with? What parts don't I connect with? So it's really much more on you to be remarkably thorough and to use your creativity with a lot of this. So the client's product in this case is a sushi restaurant and sushi. We have discovered, very interestingly, that a lot of our students aren't familiar with sushi, period. And a lot of them don't necessarily go to sushi restaurants. You need to go to sushi restaurants. You need to experience sushi. I'm not saying that it's a requirement that you eat something that's going to make you nauseated or that you're afraid of and whatnot, but you have to experience this as much as possible. Some of you already love sushi, or actually most people like it. Most people say they love sushi if they, oh, I love sushi. That's great. But try to do it from a fresh standpoint. Be creative about it. A lot of times you might be too close to the product. You might think because you love sushi, you already know what there is to know about it. But try to experience it from a fresh perspective. Try to remember the first time that you used sushi, that you ate sushi, that you experienced it. There are a lot of things about sushi that kind of take time to understand. Um, the names of the different ingredients, are in a different language and they're called other things. It's a form of food we're not used to eating, I mean, uh, just like at one point tacos were kind of new to the United States and we weren't used to eating things within a corn tortilla, with a little fold on it or whatever. And in the same way, we're not necessarily used to eating, cold food right there. There's something, a lot of sushi, well, most sushi, I guess, is cold, right? Um, it's not all raw. A lot of people assume it's all raw. So there's a lot to learn. Using chopsticks is new for a lot of people, and for some people it's intimidating. For some people it's fun. Try to know everything you can about sushi for the first time. Don't just go to one sushi restaurant. Go to two, go to three. Try to make this your week of eating sushi. While you have to do this, experience this in the first week, I highly recommend, don't let this be the end of it. Chances are students always get kind of busy. They might find some time to, grab sushi from the gas station on the way home on Friday or something. And, they've had prepackaged sushi. That's a different type of sushi than going to a sushi restaurant. So in a way, they're experiencing one part of it, but there's this whole vast world of sushi and restaurants that you need to understand at the same time. What's the difference between eating sushi at a restaurant and eating sushi that came from your grocery store or your convenience store that was prepackaged? There are differences. Differences probably in taste, differences in presentation, differences in how you feel if you're eating it in the privacy of your own home. What is the restaurant like? Is the restaurant very quiet and sophisticated, or is it very busy? And what's the crowd like? Start looking at as much as you can from using the product, wearing it, eating it, driving it, drinking it, bathing in it, etc. It's really involved. Continue into next week and go to another sushi restaurant. Go to a sushi restaurant that's a different type of sushi restaurant. For some, you all live in different places, so your exposure to sushi is different. But when at all possible, experience sushi as much as you can. If you're somebody who hates sushi and has never done it because you've been afraid of it, go experience it. You don't necessarily have to eat anything you don't want to. Watch other people eating it. Have a Coke if that's all you really want to have at a sushi restaurant. But think about what your fears are, and then try to experience things. Eat something, not everything's raw. Eat something that's not raw. Eat, whatever you can do. Try to experience it as much as you can through this first exercise. That's the first part of that assignment, but there's a difference. Becoming a student is different than learning firsthand. We're kind of looking at primary and secondary research here, okay? Primary research in this case is your firsthand knowledge. It goes even beyond the idea of interviewing people. You are trying to understand as much as possible so that you can then ask other people about their experiences. So you're experiencing it for yourself. It says find out what consumers think about the product. Are you going to conduct interviews? Do you have friends that you can go have sushi night with on Thursday? Then go. Ask them about their experiences with sushi. What was it like your first time? How do you feel about it now? How long have you been eating sushi? Has there been a change in your perception of it? All of this kind of stuff. There's so much to understand about the people, about the sushi, about the product, about the place that is there a sushi restaurant in a district of wherever you live that is similar to East Side Milwaukee? Are there alternative designed structures for malls? I know that Tampa happens to have a couple of restaurants over in Channelside that are in shipping containers just like Box Park. The entire place is not a box park, but they've got a section where I think they've got 4 set up kind of like a cross. They've got 4 shipping containers that all have a different restaurant of sorts, either walk-up window or come inside, sit down, or take out, whatever. So you can get a sense of what it's like to eat food out of a shipping container. Food trucks are relatively similar. They're just not as big. They don't have the interior option. But on some level, they're kind of similar. What is the atmosphere like at a food truck place or at a shipping container place? There's a lot to pay attention to, and it will really require you to be creative in thinking about all you can learn about this stuff. Don't let this wait until the last minute. Being a student, as I started off saying, is a little bit different than just experiencing the product. What does being a student mean to you, Ashley? To be a student means what?
To actively engage in the learning, and it's ongoing learning to me. So it's not just, oh, I want to, know this information about this one particular thing, but it's about connecting the ideas from multiple sources and
Well,
channels.
it's
Um,
connecting through multiple channels. And so this is the idea of becoming a student are the channels that aren't your experience of it. So if you're a student, you read books or you read internet now, I guess, or whatever.
right.
But to become a student means what did you learn by looking up sushi? What research did you do on sushi? What did you find out about its history? How did you find out about how it's made? What did you find out about nutritional value? What did you find out about, and the consumers as well? What did you find out about who is most likely to eat sushi and who is most unlikely to eat sushi? What did you find out from being a student that helped fill in the gaps of your personal experience? And then finding out about what consumers think. You can do this through primary and or secondary research. If at all possible, I recommend asking people firsthand about sushi. You can even try to set down a time with a sushi chef or a restaurant owner and try to talk to them a little bit about stuff. That will blend in and lead you into the idea of the competition. The idea of the competition is trying to find out primary, secondary, or direct competition, indirect competition, and replacement competition. Now, let me just say, you're pretty much going to be working with direct competition. In a restaurant situation, there are fewer indirect competitors than there are direct competitors, and there's almost no need whatsoever for a replacement in a city of almost any size. A direct competitor for a sushi restaurant or a place that has sushi would be any other sushi restaurant, any other place that serves sushi, essentially. They might serve other things. They might be Asian fusion as opposed to Japanese. They might be Japanese, but might also have the teppanyaki along with the sushi. So, but they are a direct competitor because the most like your box park sushi idea that you have in your head for what the restaurant would be, that's going to be your direct competitor. Your direct competitors are not in your local area. The direct competitors are coming from East Side Milwaukee. So you need to do some research on sushi restaurants in East Side Milwaukee. Who's their target audience? What kind of sushi is it? This kind of thing. Okay. Um, an indirect competitor would be, you have to think, well, why would somebody spend money on sushi? There could be different ideas. It could be they just want seafood. So seafood restaurants might therefore be considered an indirect, the place that people are going to pay money if they don't have a sushi restaurant nearby for. Um, you might go to a sushi restaurant for wanting Asian food. There might not be any other sushi restaurants in the area, but they might have Korean or Vietnamese, which might present something that somebody thinks is similar. So it might be that somebody is going to go to a sushi restaurant and spend that money there because they're looking for something that's a little more exotic. It's more special occasion. So they might go for Ethiopian food because not a lot of us in the United States / Milwaukee have grown up with Ethiopian food. So that seems like the kind of thing that's, oh, for your birthday, we're going to do something special and exotic. Let's go eat Ethiopian food or Moroccan food or Mexican, depending on the area. It just depends on what somebody's going to consider exotic food. But it's still food, but it's still in East Side Milwaukee, so it's not a direct competitor. It's an indirect competitor, but it's where that money's going to go for it. Let's say 2 out of 3 of the criteria of what the restaurant is being judged on. A replacement competitor, which is hardly going to happen with food, is where somebody spends the money that they would normally spend on that particular food or restaurant. So in a lot of cases, restaurants would be considered entertainment money, even though it's food money, but you do it on a Friday night or a Saturday night. Let's just say there weren't any restaurants to go to, or people weren't likely to get that experience. They weren't likely to get the Japanese experience because there's no sushi restaurants in town. So a replacement competitor might be, in the case of looking for Japanese culture, there might be a museum that has a Japanese culture exhibit. Well, I'm spending money at the museum instead of the restaurant because I want the cultural experience. That's a replacement competitor. If it's for entertainment purposes, I'm going to buy a ticket to the Milwaukee Admirals hockey game because we're going to go for Ashley's birthday. We're going to go to the hockey game instead of going to the sushi restaurant. So it becomes more about a special occasion entertainment thing. But a replacement competitor has virtually no criteria in common with the original place. So it's highly unlikely. You're going to have plenty of direct competitors and you're going to have plenty of indirect competitors, if you so think about it, that you're not going to need replacement competitors. Is that making sense, Ashley?
It does, actually.
Okay, great. There are a lot of little steps, and there's going to be sort of a lot of writing. There's going to be a lot of cogitation on your part. And remember, you're trying and synthesize a direction that you will probably go with your strategy. You're starting to think about what this restaurant, you're looking at the competition and thinking, where is there a gap? All of these restaurants are very traditional. How can I possibly make my sushi untraditional? What have I learned or experienced about it that might be an area that might make my restaurant a little bit more competitive, that'll be different? What did what were you afraid of with sushi or didn't or thought was a drawback to sushi, but found out through your research, whichever type it was, that you might, you know what, that's a fallacy. That's not real. Not all sushi's raw. I can somehow use the strategy of getting people to understand that this is not all raw sushi, that this food is wonderfully nutritious. And then you find out from looking into your target audience needs and the market segmentation, you start bringing all that stuff down. You've got all this information way up here in the top, and you're funneling it down and you're whittling away until you come to one or two things that are going to work together to help define your product and your strategy. And that's what you'll be doing with all of these assignments each week up until the end of class, trying to find a particular direction or strategy. Any questions?
Not at this very moment, no.
Okay. What's your experience with sushi, Ashley?
I have a kind of impartial to it. So there are
Okay.
times where I go and I'm like, this is great, let's do it again. And then other times where I'm just like, I could have gone without this for the rest of my life. So I think I'm still in the, it's fairly new to me, but my best friend really loves sushi.
Okay. Yeah.
So she likes to have it often. Um, but yeah, I think I'm still in the phase where I'm trying to figure out if I really like it or not.
Right. Okay. Well, now dissect that. Think about what you don't like about it. What do you like about it? Is what you like about it primarily social? Because you go there with your best friend and you guys probably go there and meet up with other people at times. Or who else likes sushi? So it becomes kind of social. So the social aspect of sushi might be really interesting. Aha, guess what? Sushi is often ordered by roles that people share. It's not always like I'm ordering this and it's exactly what I want and keep your hands off my, dragon roll or whatever. While there is clearly, people order what they want to eat kind of situation going on, traditionally sushi is sort of tapas-like, and it's not unheard of for people to go, this dragon roll is really fantastic. Here, take one of those. Let me try your salmon. Let me try that Philly roll. And so there's a lot of sharing and a lot of social aspects about sushi that, you know, when we first talk about experiencing sushi, everybody just immediately goes to what does it taste like? Or do I want to eat that? But there are social aspects to sushi. There's educational aspects associated with sushi, depending on, your level of engagement, cultural aspects of sushi, and understanding Japan possibly. But not all sushi restaurants are exactly the same. Not all of them are particularly social. Not all of them are um, as casual as other places. So there's a lot to learn and a lot to learn quickly. So I want to encourage everybody to just throw yourselves into sushi research, hands-on, primary, secondary, all of it, and try to learn as much as you can. Jot all kinds of things down to begin with, then look into your competition, see what's different, but see what lines up with the competition, see what doesn't line up with the competition, and start thinking about how you can create something unique for Box Park Sushi. Next week, we'll look into target audience a little bit more in segmentation, and you'll bring all that information forward. Okay? Ashley, are you frozen? Ashley's frozen. Okay. Um, I might be frozen to her. It's 6:51. She didn't have any questions before, so we'll assume she doesn't have any questions now. And if there are questions, then let me know. Send me a message. Take care, everybody.